The Brooklyn Vegan Show is a podcast about music brought to you by the music blog and online record store Brooklyn Vegan. Make sure to subscribe to hear all of our upcoming episodes featuring interviews with musicians and more, and find us 24/7 at brooklynvegan.com, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Hey, welcome to the new episode of the Brooklyn Vegan Show. I'm BV editor Andrew Sacker, and today's episode is an interview with Mike and Nate Kinsella, both of the band American Football, as well as many other projects together and separately, including but not limited to Owen, Owls, Joan of Arc, Cap and Jazz, Birthmark, Make Believe, and more. They've also got the self-titled debut album by their new project Lies, arriving March 31st via Polyvinyl Records. Lies finds Mike and Nate exploring more of a synthy side, channeling influences like Depeche Mode, The Cure, Robin, Magical Clouds, and more. The record is clearly a stylistic departure for fans familiar with Mike's projects like American Football and Owen, but I think if you're a fan of his songwriting, you'll find so much to like about this record. It's classic Mike Kinsella, just in a new format, and it's awesome. We talk a lot about the record in this conversation. We also talk about American Football, who have shows coming up with Steve Lamos back in the band. We talk about that time Nate fell asleep at an Owen show, that time Mike threw himself a roast for his own birthday party, and much more. And we've got an exclusive dark blue vinyl variant of the Lies album, limited to just 250 copies, available in the Brooklyn Vegan store, shop.brooklynvegan.com, so pick yours up while it lasts. Before we get to the conversation, a little bit about our sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid is a service for musicians that allows you to easily upload your music to all major streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, and more. DistroKid allows you to do automatic revenue splits, so collaborators and co-writers can get paid too. It provides you with an artist page that links to your music on all streaming services. It allows you to add lyrics, credits, liner notes, and more. You can get 30% off of your first year's membership by signing up at distrokid.com/VIP/BrooklynVegan. We've also included the link in the description of this episode, and you can click directly from there. And now, here's my conversation with Mike and Nate. All right, so welcome, Mike. Hello.
Hello.
Nate, what's up?
Hi.
What are you guys up to? I see Mike's got a guitar, so we're jumping right into the entertainment.
Yeah, I got my wires crossed. I thought you guys wanted to be entertained. I'm doing nothing. I'm calling this work, and I just opened a beer.
Awesome.
I used to do that. I had a friend when I was younger. It was a girl, my friend Katie, and we're always like, I always really liked her, and I wanted to be her boyfriend, but we never really. It never happened, and we would talk on the phone a lot, and I always had a guitar, and she would hear me playing guitar, and so it was obvious to her that I was like not really paying attention, which might actually explain why it never happened. Anyway, so I'm just sitting here. I have a new job, so I'm
pining over Katie.
Yeah, that's my new job. Memoir. I'm writing a memoir about. I don't know. Sorry, there was no punchline there. You can edit all this, right?
Oh, I know. I'm leaving this. This is good.
Gold.
So let's jump in. So you guys have the Lies album coming out, and we're going to talk a lot about that soon. But first, I want to go back in time a little bit. So you've both played together in multiple bands over the years, together, separately. You're also cousins. So tell us, how did you both kind of separately start to gravitate towards punk or other forms of underground music? And how did it eventually click that, like, wait, we're both into this kind of thing, like me and my cousin Nate, my cousin Mike, like we both are kind of following these similar paths?
I think I got into everything just because I had a punk brother, or like punk, like, music like 70s British punk, but also punk just sort of like emotionally and whatever. Sort of, he was like always sort of antagonistic, I guess. And yeah, at some point he was like, there was a cool record store that was walkable from the house when we were like in grade school. So us and a couple other friends in the block that's what we do on the weekends. Hip Cat Records, I guess maybe we owe that. Like at the time it was like going and finding like import Kiss albums and whatever, and Iron Maiden records, but just like getting into music, I guess, was, I imagine, Tim's idea. Or and then we knew Nate. I've told this in other interviews. Like I remember them going to a like family party. We didn't really see each other often. Only, I don't know, like once every couple of years for the first however many years. And at some point, Nate brought his bass with to like the family party and was like playing like Jane's Addiction songs, and we're like, "What the fuck? Nate's cool! Like that's awesome." And then fast forward to like, then we realized he was like in cool bands, like math rock bands, and he's a killer musician. And we just invited him sort of like to go on a kind of stupid long Joan of Arc tour to play drums. And I think, I don't know, we kidnapped you, I guess, Nate. And then we didn't, then you're like, I guess I live here now. Like literally, I live in a different city and I'm in this music scene now. So.
Well, I was overjoyed to have been kidnapped. Yeah. I similarly had a older sibling. My big sister Katie was like way into cool music, like way cooler music. I remember her, just kind of falling into what she was listening to and stealing her Jane's Addiction tapes and her L7 tapes and her, let's see, what else did she have? This was like mid 90s. So anyway, that's why I even knew about any of those songs that I played at that family gathering or whatever. So yeah. But yeah, and then, when they needed somebody to join up in Joan of Arc for this long tour, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Love to. I know all the songs anyway. So yeah, that was it.
Awesome. So Nate, tell me a little more about this math rock band that Mike's mentioning.
I'm still so close to all of those guys that were in that band. I mentioned my new job. My friend Tim actually got me that job. He lives down the street in the neighborhood over. It was a band called December's Architects, and because it was winter constantly in Minneapolis where we all lived, and we wrote songs that went from one part to the next, and we never repeated a single part. We just if we would have stretched it out, we could have been super prolific, but we just tried to mash every single idea into every song had like a million parts. It took forever to write everything. I'm glad that it was important to get that out of my system. It was good practice. There's lots of musicianship, one-upmanship or something. We're all just like young guys trying to play fast and write music that we thought was so smart, but that when you really just listen to it, it's like, all right, well, nothing's really, it's okay. It just sounds very busy. So yeah, that was that band.
I feel like you need that youthful naivete to write math rock,
Yeah, yeah, totally. You're like, oh, math isn't music; it's just math. What about your math rock band, Mike?
Me?
Did you ever have one that was like purely cerebral, or I don't know. I feel like you kind of dodged that. Like you were put into like a math rock.
I think, American football would have been if we just like turned our amps up. We were like, right when that would have happened, I think we were trying to react against how abrasive, like we were counting, but we didn't. Yeah. I'm a little older than you, and I was already kind of like, it just hurt my brain to hear all that math loudly hurt my brain. So yeah, I was like, also like, I was into like, I was getting into like codeine, and like I just liked all like the kind of quieter, seeing cake, like kind of like I thought I was getting into that, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't avoid it. Cap and jazz is kind of mathy and it's definitely loud, but I was again young, and
but even Owls is like
mathy. Oh, Owls, yeah, Owls is stupid, yeah.
No, it's not, because you can't tell. Like you can't. No, at no point, and I'm like, oh, they're probably counting this. It sounds really natural. I think that's the big difference. Sorry, I'm taking over this interview. I'm just like,
math rock.
Oh, good.
That's
always a goal too, I guess. even like, I mean, I like even the math rock that I liked. I always want like somebody to play through the turn, like so you can at least bob your head for a little longer before it
Totally.
like shifts or something. So
Yeah, don't reset on every one. Keep going through it. I think that was that I think is where make believe. Like I wish I took the cue from you as to not do that. That band like would have been way more like. I listen to it now. I'm like, why did I want to reset every like 2 measures or something? Like I should have just played through it. And
I think it's a young thing where you want people to know like, this is 17, asshole, and guess what? I'm catching every 17. Yeah, like
I know exactly where I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also Make Believe is like the one band I wish I was in. Not now, but in my youth, I'm like, oh, that would have been a fucking fun band to be in. But anyway,
I feel like if there's one thing people say about you, Mike, it's that you're not in enough bands.
I'm not in enough bands. Yeah, it doesn't count. Most of them are. I mean, not most of them, but Owen doesn't count. That's the songs none of the bands want. So. Also, Nate, I got this. Listen to this little like. That's gonna be really nice.
Oh, that sounds like Harry Nilsson. Like I want to be. That's like I'm going down a river.
Cool.
And, yeah.
I was thinking like really like push it real Japanese style. Like
it could be that too.
Ding, ding. Yeah. Anyways.
Like a muted marimba or something.
Andrew's in our band practice.
I'm like we're getting like this glimpse right into the Mike Nate Kinsella chemistry songwriting process.
There it is.
Hey, speaking of, I mean, so Nate, I think you kind of helped out a lot on Mike's I Do Perceive album. Is that kind of the first time that the two of you sort of did like a full length project as a duo?
Yeah, I think the first time that we were like, it was just the two of us working on something. Yeah, he was, recorded all that out at his mom's place. So he kind of asked me to come out and help with some technical things. It's like help mix and help record some stuff or whatever. So, yeah, I helped out there. I don't think that I don't know if I added a lot of like instruments or like a lot of production. I think I was just kind of there just to like help mix a few things. That was like, I think I did half of that one, and then Brian Deck, right, did the other.
It was maybe that's how it. But you absolutely like cleaned everything up and like made all the. I'm like, I want this to sound like reverby and trippy and stuff. You're like, okay, I know how to do that, and I didn't know the buttons to push.
Yeah, that would have been like the first one.
So at what point would you say that it kind of clicked that you both had this chemistry specifically between the two of you?
I think on that Joan of Arc tour, like that first early one, there were, parts in that set that were super open where we would just kind of be playing, and we had 2 drum sets on stage, and for one of the songs, we just got to like do whatever, and we would do these repeating drum fills, and we would cycle through them and flip them around. Do you remember doing that? Like that Shadow Government song?
Yeah.
Like, we would flip it, and sometimes we would both try to flip the beat simultaneously, and we would still end up together. I remember like some really fun moments.
We like took over the other person's parts, kind of, but we wouldn't even like. It was. I think we got to the point where we were trying to like fuck with the other guy, and then I think that like really is kind of a bonding thing where it's sort of like, okay, like I have to understand what you're doing. Yeah. We were in each other's brains for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like sharing symbols and stuff, so it's like everybody had to. Yeah, that was cool.
So fast forwarding to the American football reunion, and then Nate, you joined the band. Mike, how would you say that Nate's contributions helped reshape American football compared to what it was in the 90s?
Well, I think it's necessary would be the word. Like, I'll take full credit though, because I only agreed to make the band again if my cousin Nate could be in the band. Like, I think I appreciate it already. Like, if I wanted to do this, if I want to write music, like I want that, like I want to go towards whatever his brain's doing. That was like a joke. Obviously, I don't get full credit for all Nate's genius. I just had the thought to have him involved. Yeah, it was sort of like it's funny when we're writing. When we wrote the second album, I think maybe Nate was like, he's right there, but I'm thinking Nate just sort of like was like, I don't want to make this not American football, but I have ideas. But so like he chimed in, and all of his ideas that he brought up, they're all great. And then maybe he got more confident on the third album, and it's just like sort of giving new wind. Maybe, I think we kind of wrote all the noodles maybe that the three of us were going to write. And then Nate's like, what if we bent some notes? What if we add some more instrumentation? And all of it is, made me way more excited. And yeah, I mean, yeah, necessary. I'll stick by it. I don't think we'd still be a band if he didn't sort of join the band and make it more interesting or exciting for all of us,
I feel like, and you tell me if I'm projecting here, but I feel like on that second record, there's a little bit of American football's back after so long, and like we need to be American football. And the third one just feels like fully jumping into the future and like being whoever the band is today.
It's exactly, I mean, yes, that's exactly correct. But it's like, it's not even, some of it was like conscious, and some of it is just like, got back together to do reunion stuff and then realized, holy fuck, it's so fun. Like, it's really, as adults, as parents, and all these things that like we all connected again. And it's all of us like sort of full-time, part-time, full-time. Like it was all just like, if somebody couldn't do a show or some, we don't have to, or if nobody wants to go to, I don't know, I always throw like Toledo, Ohio under the bus, but like we don't have to like just get in a van and grind it out. And it ended up being fun. So then we're like, okay, let's make another album to prolong doing this. And then we kind of didn't know how to write because we hadn't done that in 18 years or whatever. So it was just sort of like, okay, let's write how we used to write. You know what I mean? And then in that process, we learned by the third album, we're like, this is still fun, but we should, like, song wise or like creatively, it'd be so cool to explore, like, to keep it interesting for ourselves instead of just being like, let's write another American football record. It's like, now let's just write a record, and we were so lucky we get to call it American football. So,
Nate, did you feel like any kind of pressure or anything coming into this band that had this like cult following with all these insane fan expectations, like that kind of thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I remember, I didn't even own a bass when Mike asked me to play, and I remember emailing my friend Sam, who actually saw American football like play there. What did you guys play in New York once? You played NYU or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, hey, he's like, can I borrow your bass for these shows? He's like, American football doesn't have bass. What are you talking about? There's no bass. I was there. I saw them play on the album. I'm like, I know. So, I mean, it's kind of funny that I had it in my head already. Like, don't want to mess it up. This is a really special thing. Like, what am I doing up there? Like, I'm not going to play anything new. I'm just going to play. I had it in my head. I'm like, I'm here to play the subwoofers. I'm here to fill out the sound of the stage. Because I also kind of love that there's no bass on that first album. Like, that was a really unique choice. I don't even know if it was a choice. Maybe just like there wasn't a buddy around to pick up the bass, but I think it made it slimmed down everything that was happening. So I loved it. So already I'm coming in like, okay, well, can't agree with this decision, but I can't turn it down. So, but no, it was awesome. And then getting into writing the next one, and Mike's absolutely right. I was like kind of like sitting back a little bit, kind of seeing what would happen and where it would go, and not trying to do too much. And then when I did write stuff, I was definitely writing it like, I definitely wrote it from what would American football do, like songwriting standpoint, and like trying to write from given all the previous material, but kind of like put it in my own capsule and like try to spit it back out, like regurgitate through my filter what I think an American football song would look like or sound like. But yeah, a lot of pressure. The time we got around to LP3 though, I didn't feel like that so much. I felt like everyone was sort of on board with pushing things out, pushing the walls out a little bit on the space that we were in. So that one was it felt a lot more free. I was more comfortable with throwing ideas out with that one.
Yeah. So had you not seen American football play back in the 90s?
No.
You did see Cap and Jazz though, right?
My cool sister did. My cool older sister did. Saw them in the basement.
I should point out that everybody who we asked to play bass in American football before Nate, who had seen the band, said no. So we just shook out that way.
So the Lies album, from what I understand, it was born out of writing sessions for a new American football album, right?
Yeah, that would have been pushing the boundaries out quite a bit. Like, that's definitely the next, like, okay, stepping into a new realm. Is this okay?
So I guess kind of two questions in one, but one, are you still working on a new American football album? And I guess you sort of just got at this a bit, Nate, but what kind of made you say, like, okay, these aren't American football songs, let's do a new project?
Looks like Mike's working on one. Mike's working on American football.
I think it's American football.
You probably are you? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're kicking around ideas. Like, we kind of all over the pandemic. Okay, so actually, those two questions kind of lead into each other well. The answers do it. So we tried to write an American football album during the pandemic with all of this synth parts and stuff, and doing it remotely just like was not a good fit. You know, that first album was written with everybody kind of sitting in the room together, and it's like we're sitting there. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't actually talk about what happened. But, you know, Holmes and Mike were roommates, and we'd just play guitar all the time together. And then Lamos would come over, and they practiced all the time. So, but we just can't do that. That would be the preferred method of writing, I think, for American football, for a couple of the guys in the band. That's like that, what they want to do. And then, but this new way of doing it during the pandemic is like the complete opposite. So it's really not that. It's not a mystery that it like didn't work out. So when that happened, then I was going to tie this all up, and it all made sense for a second, and then I lost it all. What was the second? Maybe the first.
The first part was, are you still working on a new American football record?
Oh,
and the second was like, what? At what point were you like, wait, we should start a new project for these songs?
Oh, right. So when the writing wasn't happening, we were like, well, why are we trying to force this? And like, if everyone's not going to be in on it, then it doesn't make sense. You know, I feel like everyone's got such a unique voice in that band that it just needs to be its own thing. So, yeah. So we took everything. Well, not like we took it. Like this is stuff we were all writing together. Gave credit where it was due, and then you know, Mike and I.
It's stuff. I think it was just once both Steve sort of maybe aren't as fluid or into this like sharing files way of writing, like, and it's part of maybe how I've made music for a while and how Nate makes music for a while. So I think we were just like take it over, sort of, you know what I mean? We're like, okay, cool, here's a new thing, and okay, I just threw a bunch of stuff. Like maybe also we both can like throw stuff. I don't know. Whatever, the direction started going in a way that they just weren't into, like, the songs were taking shape beyond maybe their input, and they weren't, you know, understandably like into it. And then, so they didn't really want to do those songs, and we're like, well, me and Nate had invested a bunch of time and thought into them. And yeah, we just, I mean, so then, yeah, like, so I, like, as Nate said, like, those specifically, both Steves have like such a voice. Like, I can listen. I mean, I think people can listen to a record and be like, "Oh, that's absolutely Steve Holmes' guitar part." It's like he's got these hammer-ons, like these. He wrote that "Never Meant" riff. I didn't. Like, that's his style. And then Lamos, obviously, drums is like truly unique, and we couldn't mimic it. Like, you know, like the demos. I would send demos of drum ideas, and it's just me hitting buttons on my phone. And I think it drove him crazy because he's got such feel and he's got all these nuance. And, you know, I'm just like, and then you get used to living with the demo. And then when he would send a version, I'm like, try to play more like that phone drum thing. And I don't think that's fun. So for him, at least. Yeah. And then so once they took their, like, they didn't really want to do it. We were like, okay, well, we're not going to have, you know, this song sounds like Depeche Mode. Those guys didn't want to play a Depeche Mode song. let's make it sound like Depeche Mode. Like it was just sort of like kind of freeing, and we just sort of pushed it further away from American football, I think. I mean, it was, yeah, it wasn't like, it was just sort of like the next time the demos got passed around, if it's not like, we used to have like placeholders like, oh, there'll be like a guitar noodle from Holmes here. But then once you skip, like once you bowed out, then it was like, what if it's like a glockenspiel, or what if it's like strings, or what if it's like some other instrument? So yeah, it took different shape.
Mm-hmm. It was like everyone's totally cool with how everything shook out. You know what I mean? We're playing shows again, and we're all buddies. So like we all kind of get what happened, and it was just like a bump in the road. But yeah, so I just want to throw that out there too, in case anyone's wondering if there was some massive blow up where people are like strangling each other.
Yeah, it's like just being in a band is like, so it's literally like a relationship with, I don't know, however many people you have to deal with. And so it was, it was sort of like, oh, I don't want to eat this for dinner or do this for dinner for the next year and a half. And me and they were like, oh, we want to eat pizza for a year and a half. Let's, we'll dive in and we'll just call this something else. And we'll figure it out later. We'll get a new dinner later.
Kind of like the ultimate reason to do like a side project, right? I mean,
yeah.
Bitch. Well, on that note, if I can ask, so what exactly happened with Steve Lamos? I mean, he, I guess, left the band, but then now is back in the band.
Yeah. Oh, I think I probably feel. I mean, I don't want to speak for him. I think if he were here, he would have he would share what he felt comfortable sharing, but I don't actually know like how far to go with that. So he's great and he's awesome, but I don't know if I probably shouldn't just like jump in and start talking about what.
I mean, I guess generally it's I will. No, just kidding. I mean, it was like I would say at the time that he sort of wanted, to not do it, there was nothing happening anyway. It was COVID. Like the whole world was crazy. We didn't know if there was an end to COVID. We didn't know how dangerous it is or was, or, I mean, it's like so many unknowns. Like everybody was sort of, I'm guessing, I think it's just this one, like, I think like real life was like, holy shit, real life's crazy as it was for everybody. His job, I know at the time, was like, his job, he went to school for, I don't know, 100 years, finished school, got a job, teaching and writing, and he's actually like a mad genius. And then all of a sudden, like, nah, you got to teach these college kids online full time and like learn a whole different way of doing the one thing you've tried to do for, your whole adult life. And I just imagine, as with everybody, it got to be like more of a stress than fun or worthwhile. I mean, it wasn't making money. It's not, like, what am I doing? What's the point? I guess. I don't know. I don't think I'm saying too much. I think it's like everybody kind of, I mean, I absolutely, once I realized like, holy fuck, I'm totally expendable and like my job isn't a real job and can go away. Like, I'm like, holy fuck, I want to be a fireman or decent. I'm too old to be a fireman. I looked into it. 39 to be a Chicago fireman. I'm way too old. Yeah, like, dude, it's just stupid. Like, what am I writing songs for at this point when the whole world's kind of collapsing? So, I don't know. That's how I envision why somebody would quit that band then. I don't know.
Yeah. I think everybody went through a sort of like check-in reprioritization, like it was a real reset button for a lot of people, I feel like. Well, for me too.
I mean, I do feel like it's becoming the thing that every band says in every interview, but every band is like, we wondered if we'd never tour again,
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I speak for like thousands of people when I say we're happy to have Steve back. Looking forward to the upcoming shows. So, Mike, you mentioned Depeche Mode earlier. I know you've mentioned them in like press materials and other interviews and stuff too. What were some other like influences you felt like you could really explore with Lies?
It's I don't even like. I mean, the way that the sort of initial demos, there was one like that's the Robin one and that's the Depeche Mode, and there was a Peter Gabriel one at some point. There was it was just whatever, like, yeah, it was sort of, they just got labeled kind of immediately whatever I was hearing. There's a My Bloody Valentine one. There might have been a couple My Bloody Valentine ones. Yeah, and then we just sort of like generally pushed him in a direction, and then some of them I think maybe we weren't cracking, so then we just like, oh, we like pushed it a different direction, and then, oh, that makes sense now. Or, what if I sing this softer? Now it's just a quieter song, or it's like a little, yeah. So I mean, that's how, I mean, even American football songs, I absolutely know what I'm trying to sound like what I'm trying to rip off, but it's just sort of filtered through two guitars, drums, bass, and my voice. So it just kind of sounds like American football version of, in my head, it still sounds like Depeche Mode, but it doesn't. And so now on this, we're like, open up the synthesizers, let it be what it is.
Nate, do you have any to add or?
I forgot the question. I was listening to the answer.
just wondering about like specific influences to shout out.
Oh, there was one called Magical Clouds, which I actually hadn't heard that band before. And you named it the Magical Clouds. I was like, oh, I like that name. That's a cool name. Why is it spelled like that? And then I was like, oh, that's a band. I think you told me it was a band. I looked them up. Great band. I don't know what they're doing now, but that was one. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the only one that's coming to mind. All the working titles were definitely, this sounds like it could be this band. So,
Sure.
I mean, all of them, like The Cure was
right.
A couple of them definitely, and some we were like, we just let it be a Cure song. Some we like, got pushed over the edge somewhere else. But yeah, a lot of Cure, I guess, kind of like darkish, some of it.
Mm-hmm. It does almost feel like a long time coming for you to be doing a project like this, Mike. I mean, you like name drop New Order and Cocteau Twins and song lyrics and stuff, and it's like obviously always been this influence, and now you're like, all right, I'm gonna drop the noodly guitars and just full on go synths and like do the thing you've obviously loved for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean that it's not like hyperbole. Like I'm writing a new Owen album, and there's a song called New Order, and to me, I'm like, that's a fucking New Order guitar part, but it's in 5, and it does not sound like New Order by the time I'm done. But that's just I've been riding that way forever. Like all the Owen albums have like girl washy vocals and stuff because I'm trying to make it shoegaze folk or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's fun to like finally realize it though. Like,
what were some of the, I guess, lyrical directions you were taking on this record? I mean, it seems like maybe less overtly like diary like compared to maybe Owen or American football.
In the same exact, it's all the same sort of like mindset of like, what does this Depeche Mode song, need? It doesn't need me complaining about like the specific part of my kitchen that reminds me of a, you know what I mean? It needs like kind of like a dirty kind of like snarl or something. So I was like, I guess invoking, or it's, whatever I have written, I can just go, I could sift through and be like, okay, this is more this direction. This is more, maybe American football seems the most earnest of the things that I write. And then Owen is like the most kind of crass or like tongue in cheek. Like it's like the sassiest, maybe, I guess this Lie Something stuff is more in the middle of like, or it's just more vaguely, I know exactly what I was trying to do, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's it. It's just kind of vague. Like it's just like, it doesn't need to be like with Owen stuff. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to read as truthful because whatever, like, like someone's, it just needs to be like true for the Owen stuff. Cause I have to sit there and play it stripped down. And, I've said like, I fuck up so many times playing Owen sets. I mean, I just, the whole, it's all, like fun. And I mean, fun for me. Sometimes I get a little inebriated and I just kind of like make bad jokes and whatever. And like the whole night could be a disaster, show wise, but I don't care. Except the one thing that gets me is if I fuck up lyrics. Like if sometimes it's like something that sounds like the lyric that's supposed to land, is supposed to have impact, and then something phonetically similar just comes out of my mouth and it sounds like gibberish. And I'm like, oh, it's so embarrassing. Like I don't care if I like, fall down on my face and have to play the song like laying down. If I like sing all the words and I mean them, then I'm like, okay, that was a good show. But like, it's if then I'm like, it just takes you out of it so quick. You know, if I'm like, if I just, you know, if hand soap comes out instead of hand job, I don't care if like the lyric is even stupid. If it doesn't feel, if I'm not in the moment and it comes out like authentic, then I'm like so embarrassed. Like, but then the rest of the show, I'm just like, yeah, a disaster, and I don't even care. So, anyways, I forget what the question was, but yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's just like the beauty of an Owen show. Like an American football show is so tight and like intense, and you know, and you're just like in a daze when you're watching, and then in Owen you're like laughing and like you're cracking jokes, we're all laughing. Like it doesn't matter if you like restart a song.
I mean, that's what I'm absolutely capable of laughing at myself. And also, like, I think I'm confident. Like, I'm like, you try playing these guitar parts after a few drinks. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this shit's hard or whatever. You know, like in real time. So I don't. If I fuck up, I'm like, okay, I'll go back and whatever. But there's something about the inauthenticity of like fucking up my own autobiographical lyrics. I like can't get over it. The whole show, I'm just like, fuck. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so funny.
I don't know. I mean, that's just you know, you got your own shit, Nate. What do you get out of here?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, I got plenty of it. I'm just gonna go down the list.
Let's see what cripples me. Yeah.
Yeah, Nate. What makes a birthmark show a bad show?
Let's see. There's always a lot of technical stuff going on. So I get hung up on little technical things, but it's hard for me to really get into a show and to really sort of like disappear and try to be in the moment. But there was this birthmark show where I was like, of course I'm like playing drums and I'm playing keyboard, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm trying to sing and then everything's in a different time signature and it's like blah, 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 and so my brain is melting trying to do this, and like right in front of me, like the microphone's here, so I can't look away, my hands are occupied, I can't turn it or whatever. The person who I'm looking at is like this young woman in the front row who's just like on her phone, like the whole time. So bored, did not even look up once, and it was such a bummer. I'm like, oh man.
I mean, American football is very often like you know, 20-something-year-old male just like usually staring at you because you're doing something with your feet, or Lamos or something, and then like a totally bored girlfriend just like leaning up against the cage, just like do not, couldn't care less. But also I was just you fell asleep at an Owen show, Nate, so what do you
when was I totally
in London? I had a show. I just like and the end of a tour or something. And it's like, oh, I'll play an Owen show too. And you guys like, yeah, we'll come out. You were just like laying on a bench asleep during the show, which is great. Show? Yeah.
Oh my god, that's like out in the open, so that people like that's so funny that people would know me.
Yeah,
maybe
I mean, I don't care.
Like I know. That's hilarious. I wish I could say I did that on purpose. I don't know. No, that's kind of rude. I should have at least gone backstage. Was I
do not care. Yeah. I mean, yeah. As long as you don't fuck up my lyrics.
So Mike, yeah, I mean, you mentioned like these lyrics being maybe a bit more vague. I mean, one thing I've kind of always wondered, like, so, you know, last year, No Good for No One Now turned 20. And, you know, I wrote this little thing on it. I went back to the record and I was like, does Mike like feel like shit? I can't believe I said all that stuff about my life 20 years ago. Like, I love that record, but do you have any of that with these like, you know, really, really open, vulnerable songs?
I think I don't think about that.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't really, I guess I wake up just sort of stressed about like, holy fuck, I got to write more songs, and like I'll get crabby about that, and I'll think about that, and it consumes me, which is good because then I don't focus too much on you know, whatever embarrassing shit I've done in the past. I'm trying to think if there's any. There's not really. No, I don't think like when I'm playing them live or something. There's not like, some of them are just kind of corny. Like I feel like bad about that, but they're also authentic from when they were written. And yeah, I haven't made really any enemies. My ex-wife used to get upset about she wouldn't listen to my songs or whatever. Fair enough. So, yeah, I don't, they'd be like, should I be embarrassed about existing 20 years ago? No. So yeah, can't worry about it too much. I think I'll tell myself that. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's like a healthy attitude to have. Like, I'll see just like a Facebook post I made 8 years ago and be like, what was I thinking?
Oh, I mean,
You know?
I'm not saying like I like it all or like stand by it as fucking genius or anything. I threw myself a roast for my 40th birthday party. Like invited all my friends, paid for them to get drunk, and then a few friends got up and like literally like just wrote comedic, like making fun of me. And Nate couldn't be there, but he sent an audio roast of he just edited together every time on an Owen song. I was like, I know. I say I know a lot. Like I know. I guess I do it for I don't know. It was like 4 minutes edited together of just me like I know. I don't know. It's great roast, unbelievable.
That's
And
the meanest thing I've ever done to
I
anybody.
wasn't aware of it. Like I didn't know, but stand by it because at the time or since my inception, I guess it's like every time I'm like, oh, this just sounds like Jay Mascis. I don't care, like whatever. Like it's just like it's the easiest way to say something sounding like Jay Mascis.
Oh, he does.
Anyways,
I hear him doing that for sure.
oh, it's totally
Yeah,
every time. That's what like, yeah, it's like I know this. Yeah, like so. I'm cool with that. It's, again, it's all references. It's all yeah. But I don't know if I intentionally did that many times. Anyways, I'm not saying this shit's good. I'm just saying I try not to worry about it, or I absolutely don't regret it. Like that's like those are two different things. But
yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Um, with Lies, sounding so different than I guess what people might call the Kinsella sound, right? Is there any desire to maybe like get away from that, get away from like what people pigeonhole your music into?
I don't. It's not. It's less of a desire for like the perception of my music and more. I'm like I was talking about writing that last American football, like or even just working with Nate. It's so fun to like. It's fun to have. I mean, just because I do Owen shit on my own, it's usually just my brain. It's fun to have somebody push it somewhere else and have a different idea. Like that's fucking cool. Like that's it's absolutely something I didn't think of. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's a maybe even 10 years ago, definitely in my 20s. And, when you're kind of like writing, you're kind of like touring more before kids and family and everything. Maybe you have this idea of getting to some other level and reaching a point or something. And now I've given up on it. And it's just sort of like, I think the people who like what I do. And they trust maybe that it's going to be through my voice and stuff. And the people that don't have decided they don't like it. And that's, it is what it is. It's not, yeah, I don't take it personally. It's, there's a bunch of shit. I'm like good friends with a bunch of people whose music I don't like. So you get over taking it personally. Nate, how do you feel about the way people perceive you and your last name?
Well, yeah, I don't actually. I never really think about it because I feel like from since moving to New York, it's kind of I don't even think about it very much because it feels like a real Chicago thing. Like when I moved to Chicago and I joined up with Joan of Arc and I moved into the loft with everybody and we were all living in the same place and playing every day and starting bands and touring all the time. It really felt like a strong part of like my life and my personality and like the core, like my group, like that was like the scene or whatever. But since leaving, I haven't felt like that so much. So I never really think about it. Um, but and I not that I am at odds with the perception of the family or whatever, but it's kind of nice to be able to like totally just to like kind of disappear into New York. I mean, everybody. I feel like that's why people move here. It's like there's a liberating it's liberating to sort of like just be totally like anonymous, like whoever. Like, did you grow up in New York, Andrew?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, one of like wow! I never meet like for real New Yorkers. So that's funny because, um, well, you will have a different experience if you move somewhere else that's foreign to me. I'm raising kids here, so they're gonna grow up as like living in New York, and they're gonna kind of.
Did you
But
guys just see this? It's gone viral, like this TikTok video of Sofia Coppola's daughter.
I saw people tweeting about it, but haven't watched the video.
It's so like it's what it's. Uh-oh, dog's barking. It's totally what you're talking about. I don't know. You think like this guy did The Godfather, then he had kids, and she went on and did cool things or whatever. But this girl is like really bummed that she got grounded for not taking a private helicopter to a party or something. And she's like, "That's cool. They grounded me." It's just like she also is trying to make a meal. She's like, "I'm just gonna make this meal instead." I don't know the difference between garlic and onions, so I have to Google it. And she's like totally proud of how, I don't know, ignorant or whatever. And your kids are gonna like grow up like city smart, raised in New York. It's just a reaction. It's everything. Yeah, their experience is totally different. And even though you think like, well, I'm raising them with my Midwest values and stuff, that city is also raising them, and where you're from isn't such an influence. Anyways, I don't know. I feel like nothing but lucky that we're not Sofia Coppola's kids. You should watch it.
or have something that you really can't escape. Like I feel like kind of bad for people who are actually famous. That's got to be really that's got to be really hard, like to not be to just. I mean, I don't know. It's happened a few times where I'll meet somebody randomly. Turns out I'm like, I know who is this person? It was like an actor in some show, and like I'm like, oh right, oh they're famous. They probably get that second glance with every single person they've ever met or whatever. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
I always feel really embarrassed when I realize I'm doing that to someone because, like, I don't know, I'll be like on the subway and I'm like, who is that person? And then I'm like, oh, wait, I'm like staring at the drummer of a band I saw like a month ago at like, like they're too famous for me to be looking at them because they're like, this guy wants an autograph. And, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just thought maybe I knew you and, not trying to like fanboy, but
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah. Um, Yeah. So Lies started out as a studio project, but you've got shows coming up. What are your plans for translating this music live?
We played a few shows. Sorry, really, just like jump into this one confidently. It's gonna be fucking awesome. I'm playing drums, standing up to keep it fun, Sheila E. style. I'm gonna have 5 splash cymbals that I can kick with my heels and timbales. Just kidding. It's where we got
I
keyboard.
was like, I don't know if you saw my face. I was like, wait, what?
That's what I've been working on this whole time. Um, well, lots of we have keyboards, and it's just gonna be a duo. We'd love to like have a dozen people on stage. We totally could. Like we could have a dozen people, and everyone would be busy the whole time. But we're just gonna bring the old laptop and play as much stuff live that we can, and then there will be some stuff that is that we have help playing through the magic of technology.
Very cool.
Yeah, like most bands, it's not that crazy these days. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just, at South by Southwest last week, saw something like 80 bands in 5 days, and, samples through the PA is like the very, very normal way to perform, I feel like.
Yeah, no amps. I just went and saw like a total fucking rock band play a pretty large venue, no amps. Like it sounded so crazy side stage,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Speaking of famous people, so American football has a show with the 1975 coming up, right? Mike, I mean, I think did you do like a podcast with Maddie Healy or something? Am I
I did.
remembering that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. I had never listened to it, but I did it.
Okay. I mean, I guess, is this sort of pop star who really loves your band. Like, is that like a surreal thing at all?
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome because I actually like his band. Like if it was so I got to really think of a band I don't mind insulting.
You don't have to.
No, I have to. I got to go through with it now. Uh, who's never gonna ask us to open a show? Yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's like it's super cool because I like what he's doing and I respect what he's doing. Actually, like I think it's talk about like really taking influence from shit but making it your own. Like it's like really kind of almost magical. Like you can't even dismiss like now like he's turned these things that used like they would be a reference. But now I'm like, oh, it sounds like the 1975. This band sounds like the 1975. He made it like his own thing. So yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, I think if it didn't go both ways, it'd be like weird, and I'd be like, I don't know, like I don't think I care. I guess that's the part that I sort of like am excited about is that it's a band I like. So
Yeah. No, I mean, that for sure is what makes it cool. Like, I mean, in general, like, you know, I like American football, obviously, and like similar music to that band. And seeing the 1975 be these stars who were like, hey, we like really love mid 90s emo and stuff. I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
that's cool because you're not really getting that from bands on your level. And like,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
awesome
so
to,
it totally makes sense. Like, I mean, I don't know if it totally makes sense for all these pop bands, but like he's of an age and he's yeah. I mean, that's cool. It's amazing that he was even knew what was going on, and it just gives me more faith that like when he's writing, he's he's like culling, is that the word, from all these different sources. Like it's not just like, oh, I like this one pop band in the 80s, but people don't know who that is, so I'm gonna sound like that. It's like, no, he's definitely like taking parts from everything and yeah, it's
and
smart.
that's why, like, to your point, you're like, oh, this sounds like the 1975 because it's not just
Yeah,
like regurgitating one specific thing.
exactly. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean often there's like, oh, this is like pop whatever, 80s production with a little like definitely Radiohead sort of like something happening. Like it's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I like
good.
just before we got on this call, actually, I was just sort of like, doing that music nerd thing where I'm just thinking about this kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, like, a lot of bands lately have been getting compared to Block Party. It's like
Hmm.
wild because, like, when they first came out, everybody was like, they just sound like Gang of Four.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, well, clearly
That's
not, because now everybody's getting compared to them. So it's like they had a thing.
yes. Then there's also a thing where if you just live long enough, like
Right, right.
nobody, yeah. But at the time, anybody old enough to remember Gang of Four would know that that's what that was. Yes. But that's it's just everything's kind of cyclical. Like nobody, actually invented anything. You know what I mean? Like everything to our in our it's sort of like everything sounds like the Beatles because that's sort of where, but they were absolutely trying to do stuff. I mean, actually they kind of may have invented a bunch of shit like studio wise and stuff, but their like oldest rock stuff, they were just trying to be like American rock music, whatever. Like they have influences. Which is also sort of like, I'm a sports fan. I'm always like, people are like, oh, nobody's done this since 1990, whatever. Like this one very specific stat of rebounds plus whatever all in one game. And it's just like, well, somebody's done it. And like, you know what I mean? Like just because you have this track that only goes back this far that you're counting the rebounds in playoff games, but it used to be games instead of seven, and whatever it is like, yeah. Anyway, same with music.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, like, we all have our reference points. Like,
Mm.
I mean, when a certain wave of bands kind of arose in the late 2000s, I was like, hey, a lot of these bands sound like Cap and Jazz. But, like, I was too young when Cap and Jazz came out to have that kind of opinion. But I'm sure there were people being like, hey, Cap and Jazz sounds like
When
XYZ.
I remember going like the first few times to Japan, a lot of the opening bands sounded like guitar wise, definitely like Cap and Jazz, but times 1,000. It's like, oh, if like, like what Nate was saying, like you were like you and your friends are trying to like outdo each other as like young, sort of like you're just getting into like, oh, this is in not 4/4, like this is a new thing. And it took all your effort just to practice, just to hear what a thing would sound like in 7. But then people that grow up hearing that enough understand what it feels like. It's like internal to them. So not only can they play in 7, they could do a lot more in that little, they're not just counting 7. They're playing twice as many notes in 7. And then they're playing 3 times as many notes in 7. Then they're playing shit in 21 and whatever. So yeah, I just remember being like, oh my God, like all these bands sounds like my bands, but like way better. Like this is kind of embarrassing. Yeah.
So anything else you guys want to add?
You're going to tell people we have shows coming up. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah. No,
Okay,
for
cool.
sure. Yeah. Emerald mentioned how Nate is going to be playing splash cymbals with his feet.
5 splash. I fell for it. It's like,
I thought you were completely serious, you know. I'm just like, okay, cool. So I'm like, this is going to be interesting. And then
the funny part is I do have one splash cymbal. It'll be the only time I've ever toured with a splash cymbal. There will be one. I can promise that.
You just got to play it with your foot.
Yeah, it's a tricky part. I'm not as flexible as I used to be. So I got that to work on. But I love Brooklyn Vegan. They're great.
Thank you.
Like the one that I don't feel bad about after I read. There are some other ones where I'll read. Doesn't even have to be an article. It's anything to do with me or anyone that I know. I'm like, anyway, I'm a fan.
Well, I appreciate it.
Name those, Nate. I'll think of a band that we'll get canceled by, and then you think of a paper and online. Okay, never mind. Okay, thanks.
I feel about the Deftones in the mix.
Hey, Deftones would totally have American football open, I think.
I didn't say, yeah. I hope so.
Damn it.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks,
it's been a blast. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
Nate.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you around.
Hey, thanks so much to Mike and Nate. Thanks for listening. You can pick up the Lies album on limited dark blue vinyl in the Brooklyn Vegan store, shop.brooklynvegan.com. It's limited to just 250 copies, so pick yours up while it lasts. And hey, if you like what you heard, please give us a good rating. It doesn't take a long time, but it goes a long way. Subscribe, tell your friends about us. Any little bit of help is super appreciated. Thanks so much, and see you next time.